Hey everyone, I hope all of you had an amazing day so far, and welcome to Kayan Al-Bashar. So today we are actually first looking at what we are starting off with, because I did do some work in between videos and I forgot to record it. Or basically I just got so much into the zone that I just forgot to record. Though it is mostly just changing the Great Ziggurat a little bit into the hanging gardens, as you can see. So I didn't I didn't record all of these plans. I did, however, record what you see right now appearing, which are these great cylinders, which are basically the machinery. So that took a long time. That makes this into an actual garden, and it has some historical accuracy to it, or at least speculative historical accuracy, because we don't know if the hanging gardens actually existed. I do believe that it might be, but more in like a smaller scale. This is how the palace right now looks like. So it's, well, this garden here in front is actually going to be important later on, but I don't want to make this intro more than 2 or 3 minutes long. But I do know that at least one of you guys asked to see like a shot of the second red panda habitat, and well, I'm just going to do that right now. So the red panda habitat looks like this. Everything is reachable by them. Everything, well, they can just travel everywhere. It's usually a real pain in the ass to find them though, because they're tiny and they like to hide in the shrubbery. But the most important part, of course, is, whoa, camera hates me. Actually, you know, I'm just a doofus and I constantly press the wrong buttons. But the floating gazebo, and actually, as you can already see, the most important part is, well, for once they actually do sleep here. Well, actually they always sleep here, because this is the only place that they this is the only place that they can sleep. Sorry, I never saw the animation of them. Moving on. But anyway, so that's basically how the second red panda habitat is going to look like, or, well, it's not going to look like, it is looking like. And yeah, I basically got everything from the old bugged save file, made it into a habitat, and well, basically just pasted the entire palace together. I really like how the sun looks looking through that waterfall. But yeah, so today we are going to basically ruin the hanging gardens or Great Ziggurat. I'm going to leave the camera here while I talk about that. And of course the camera. But yeah, so today we are going to ruin it. I'm going to talk more about that later while we're at the real speed build. So I hope you guys enjoy. See you in 5. So welcome back. So we are starting off with the cylinders that I briefly mentioned beforehand, and these are Archimedes screws. I'm probably mispronouncing the name, but they're basically what makes it so that water gets pumped up from whatever source of water into the uppermost parts of the, well, here it's a ziggurat, but historically, or if you are talking about hanging gardens, it would be raised to the top of the hanging gardens, and from then it would float down. And I did make a smaller one of these. It was kind of, yeah, they are not completely accurate, or maybe not workable, because I am no engineer by any means. I just saw like, alright, this is how they look like. Let's try to make something similar. They will not work, however, because you might have already seen it, but those cylinders that I built, there are gaps in the actual cylinder, so water that gets pumped up would just fall down through those gaps. But I just like them a lot better with the gaps, because then it just looks like, well, you can actually see what's inside of it. Otherwise, I could just have made a cylinder and just faked that there was anything inside of it. Now you can actually look inside of the Archimedes screws or of the cylinder and actually see like, oh, there is something behind this. And I am probably also going to ruin this a little bit, because again, like, Yeah, this is actually where I was struggling a little bit because by the end of the last episode, I was so happy with the cigarette that I was like, do I really want to ruin this? Like, do I want to destroy it? So I am actually going for a very mild approach when it comes to like ruining the entire cigarette or hanging gardens. I think I'm still going to call it a cigarette because it's like a little bit inspired by the hanging gardens, but the hanging gardens are usually like way more plants than what I placed right now. So yeah, right now you can actually see that I basically just made, well, a cylinder with gaps in between, because as I said, I wanted it to be seen that there is some machinery inside of it. Of course, it isn't going to rotate at any time, but I like to just imagine that it would, and that it still somehow works. And in a way that might be screwing up the hanging garden slash cigarette thing. But yeah, so as I said, I didn't really want to completely destroy the gardens or the cigarettes, just because I was so proud of what I built that I was just like, I don't want to destroy it, but I did say that I was going to make it into ruins, and well, there's just a lot of references to make an actual good looking ruined cigarette. But I went for the mildest version that I could make. But yeah, in the end of the building this Archimedes screw, again, I'm probably mispronouncing the hell out of that name, but I've never been one to be good with names. I think I'm like making excuses of me mispronouncing things every episode so far. Like, I really want to know just in which episodes or which videos do I not make an excuse of just mispronouncing things. But yeah, so the water would, by way of the screw turning, would just be raised from, well, historically it would be like the Euphrates or the Tigris or whatever river was in there. And then it would just be basically pumped up completely to the highest point and then flow down from there. I only made one level of those screws because it just didn't look right to make another one. So the upper levels, let's just imagine the screws are on the inside. But now to actually ruin the cigarette. This is the first attempt, and I'm going to probably return to it because, again, this was the first attempt of me like making a ruined building. So of course I wanted it to make that the stairs were broken, because every ruined building with a lot of stairs, just, I think it might be just because I think a lot of, when, well, ruined stairs, I think of Lord of the Rings, and I think everyone by now knows about what scene I'm talking. But yeah, I just wanted to make the ruined stairs, and well, not the ruined stairs, but just ruin the stairs. And yeah, as I said, the first attempt, I have actually never really made a ruined building, or actually like, well, I have made ruined buildings, but they were like very minimal, like a little bit of damage. And here, well, it's still only a small amount of damage because, again, I'm very attached to the cigarette right now. So I was just like, yeah, I could ruin it, but that's, well, I would be sad. And also, as I said in the sort of intro, the front gardens of the palace are important because you can see the hanging gardens slash cigarette from the palace gardens. And I don't mean, you know, the red panda habitats, but the actual front gardens of the palace. But I didn't want, well, as I said, you could see it from the palace, and I didn't want it to look like, oh, there's a ruin in the background. From the palace gardens, I wanted to make basically the destruction so minimal, or like structurally minimal, that from the palace gardens you can still see the hanging gardens and it doesn't look ruined. It's only when you come closer that you can actually see that it's just falling apart. And I imagine that this would be maybe, let's say, from an earthquake or something. I mean, I doubt that the Kayan Al-Bashar going skywards was the most gentle of processes. I do imagine that there will probably be some kind of earthquakes when basically just the earth broke apart and started floating. So that's basically the idea behind how these, well, how the disrepair came to be, because it's not really a ruin. Well, it is, but it's not really, everything broken and such. There's still, like, again, from the palace, it looks almost completely fine. However, at the end of today's video, I do something that's, well, not the complete end of the video, but at the, let's say, 4/5 of this video, there's something that does change it a little bit, that makes you think like, oh, there is something going on. But again, I just didn't want it to be completely ruined, because I got attached to it, because I spent way too long on the building, and I didn't want it to look like a ruin from the palace gardens. I think it looks a lot better if from the palace gardens it still looks completely fine. Well, not completely, but mostly fine. But then when you get close to it, you can actually see, oh, not everything is as it seems. Which, yeah, it just makes me think of words, Fata Morgana. Yeah, I'm just pronouncing it the Dutch way, and like the name of the ride in the Efteling. Like, it probably has a better pronunciation in English, but yeah, that's just my, well, I wanted to say my Dutch part coming through, but no, it's just me not being able to speak. But yeah, so with the ruinification or destruction of the ziggurat, I just thought like, alright, what are the most obvious places where destruction would easily happen over time, but also from an earthquake? So I thought like, alright, probably at the edges, at the corners, there will be a lot more destruction happening. This might not be true, because like the corners also have like the biggest supports, but I just like it a little bit more. Also with the planters on top of the corners, that is actually what I'm going on with later. Like, I'm already attempting to do it here. Like, this video is basically just me trying to destroy the building and constantly getting like a little bit better at it. So with that, the last few bits of this video is where I actually know how to make this into a proper ruin. Also, I did think like, alright, if this was ruined, probably like the first layer of the bricks, which are like these blue bricks and the brownish sandstone bricks, I probably just imagine that just behind that is just bare, just bricks that are meant to work and not meant to look pretty. So I just, when it came to destroying the hanging gardens or the ziggurat, I just thought like, alright, first of all, those pretty bricks would probably fall down, would crack, would just be gone, and then the bare bricks behind it would be exposed. But then also the bare bricks are probably like the most sturdy ones. And yeah, that's basically the thought process that went behind it, that just revealing the second layer of the rougher bricks. And that's what I'm mostly going to do with the ziggurat. Not, having it being completely torn to pieces, which was actually my first idea. Well, actually the first idea to ruin the ziggurat was, I think most of you guys will maybe remember the falling rock from the caravanserai. So yeah, that was the idea for destroying the hanging gardens or the ziggurat, was basically to just throw a huge rock into it. But I quickly noticed that like, oh yeah, I might know a little bit about building, but to pull that off would require a week. Because as you can see, there aren't any pieces to actually make a thing look ruined. Or there are not like debris pieces that we do have in Blanco, but those also came with an expansion. So am just using some brick pillars, and that's what I'm mostly going to be using today. So yeah, dropping a huge rock into the floating gardens. Well, the ziggurat was a little bit above my skill level. Also, I just reminded myself of this, but I do. Well, how can I properly talk about this without sounding like a complete narcissist? Well, there have lately been, well, not a lot, but like once every 2 videos has been like a comment of like, oh, I am kind of shocked that there are that there are not more views or not more squirrels here. With squirrels, of course, subscribers and such. And then I can just think like, I'm honored that you guys think that of like, oh, this channel should have more subscribers or squirrels, as I like to call it, you guys. But then also just know that I've only been at my channel for less than a year, actually. Like December the 2nd is actually the anniversary date, or like the first year anniversary of the channel. And so yeah, I don't really know how to react to that, but yeah, just know that like we've already achieved amazing things in, well, actually I would say like almost a year, but most of the things that we achieved have been in the span of like the last 3 months. Like 3 months ago I was still at 200, now I am at 2500. Yeah, that's amazing, and you guys always continue to blow my mind. And yeah, I want to do something special for like the first year anniversary, just because I know that I am a little bit I'm a squirrel somewhat, so it's amazing that I've stuck through with the channel for a year. Like most of the times projects that I start kind of fizzle out after like a month, so yeah. Was already amazing to see that with Teanopolis, that I continued to work on it, but then also with the channel just on itself. So yeah, I want to do something special for the first year anniversary, but I have no clue what. So if you guys have any ideas what to do for the first year anniversary of the channel, please put them down below in the comments, so that's I basically live down there. So yeah, if you have any ideas for what to do for the first year anniversary, please put them down below. And now probably back to the actual building part. So as I said, the later part of the video, so where we are right now, is actually the biggest destruction thing on the floating car. Whoa, I have said floating I think so much in previous episodes that now it just doesn't leave my head. But yeah, so for the destroyed ziggurat, this is probably the largest part where I was like, alright, now I'm comfortable with making something look ruined. And then I just, with the planter, I just wanted to throw it on the ground. And then I just thought like, alright, if this planter fell to the ground, it has to have a path of destruction. Like, if this goes down, it will have destroyed parts in its way. So that's basically the idea behind it, that like, alright, after an earthquake, this building was probably was unsafe, was unstable. So probably like, maybe after a few days, like cracks became wider, became bigger, and then just this planter fell down and took a huge chunk of the building or the corner with it. I'm not going to place a lot of like debris on the ground like I did that before, but then one of those like piles of debris that you saw me build were I think 5,000 pieces. So yeah, some debris was actually larger in piece count than the actual completed ziggurat. So also with that in mind, with like piece count, I'm probably not going to be able to, make it into one blueprint for you guys to, because yeah, it's even the original ziggurat is around 8,000 pieces. So one of you guys did suggest, and I did know about this way of making a blueprint by making it into a habitat. But the habitat, well, thing cuts the building off at a weird place because the upper, like the blue, well, heart of the ziggurat, I would say, just gets cut off in half. So then half of the ziggurat is missing, and also with the Archimedes screws on the side, half of those are also missing, or at least actually everything that is below ground and up to or over a certain extent just gets cut off. So not only gets the upper part of the ziggurat cut off, but also the stairs are all wonky because, as you might have seen in the last video, some parts of those are below ground. Also, some parts of just the walls of the ziggurat are below ground. So using the habitat tool to make it into a blueprint, because habitats, if you blueprint them, just have a higher piece limit. But they do have a limit of like, alright, everything above that or below a certain point just gets cut off. And, well, I don't want to give you guys a broken building. So I was thinking like, alright, I can maybe make this into like a 2-piece building. The original ziggurat, not the destroyed one, because the destroyed one right now is at, I think, 1,600, 1,500 pieces. So, well, not 16, but yeah, 15k pieces. Numbers sometimes confuse me, just like words. But so the destroyed ziggurat you will probably only see in Kayan Al-Bashar because, well, it's a huge amount of pieces. Like you can already see with this destroyed part of the ziggurat that it's like a lot of pieces. And I originally thought of using like the natural rocks, but then I just knew like, no, that's not going to look right. That just looks like there's some kind of like outcropping of rocks instead of it being destroyed. But yeah, so the original ziggurat, I'm going to figure out if I'm going to be able to put it on the workshop. But most likely it will either be a 2-part blueprint, by which you have to like line it up on a certain point, or I'm not going to be able to put it on the blueprint or on the workshop. And then I might imagine maybe putting Kayan Al-Bashar on the workshop and like giving a monthly update to the park or the zoo, so that every month you guys can like check in with the zoo and see what has changed from the last time you visited. Also, yeah, a few of you guys have been visiting the zoo already. Yeah, I recognize some names when like the zoo is open. It only has the pet at the actual entrance that you are given when you build, or not when you build, when you open a new zoo. And I recognize some names. So yeah. Anyways, I am not going to show every part of destroying the ziggurat, just because like it's a lot of the same. Like it's a lot of just removing the outer shell of the building and filling it up with with bricks, and just every little bit of like destroyed parts. It's at the end it just kind of blends in with each other. And yeah, I was actually very curious, like, alright, how am I going to make this work? Because again, as I said, we don't have a lot of like debris pieces. We have a lot of pieces that work really well if you want to make a pristine building, but then to make a ruined building is a little bit harder. Also, this I quickly want to throw out there, but this is probably going to be a habitat for the boat lemurs, because the lemurs actually have like if I'm correct, a bonus if you add both of them into a single habitat, which is kind of amazing. Also just gives me an excuse to fill this place with lemurs. And it's probably going to have the okapis. And I don't think that will have much issue with each other, because the okapis have the lower ground and the lemurs have the entire ziggurat to themselves, because the okapis can't climb. I was thinking with what Kayan said, like, the Japanese macaques, but those desire, I think, a tundra or like a colder biome, and with this being a very tropical biome or habitat, I'm not going to place the Japanese macaques in here. So, sorry, Kane. I am going to build a turtle, tortoise. Kane, don't kill me, but tortoise habitat probably after this. You know, just a small little thing, just because I want to. And I just have like the idea to build like something, like a very tiny habitat that is actually workable. Or at least actually blueprintable and to be able to be placed into the workshop. So yeah, maybe a Galapagos tortoise, land turtle. Yeah, Kane is going to hate me for that. But anyway, so back to this destruction. So again, just removing the outer shell, and also because the planter fell down, I just imagine like, oh, there's probably like dirt or earth that was in the planter that probably didn't go all the way down. Because probably halfway through or even before that, the planter would probably have already been broken into pieces. So that's basically like, alright, where can I place plants? Because of course, when a building is all bricks, yeah, grass and such might slowly start to grow into the cracks. But it does need a little bit of like dirt and earth to actually have like a fully grown plant, I imagine. So with just like the broken tiles and such, I am not going to build really heavily with all these plants. If there's just broken tiles, maybe some grass, as you can see me place. But only in the larger sections where there's like a planter that fell down or something. That's where I can place a tree. Or at least that's where I try to be a little bit realistic with destruction. This might not be realistic because again, like, I am not the greatest at that. I mean, I'm talking about realism and then I'm building a floating zoo. But I do try to make the buildings realistic, so I think that's a point for me. And 10 points for you guys. But anyway, so yeah, it's going to be probably an okapi and lemur habitat. Maybe also some flamingos. And this is where I am going probably completely against the message of the game, because I think the message of the game was educating people on animals. And I just want to put flamingos in here because they look pretty. Because they add a little bit of color. And one of you guys said that he hated the pink trees. And I secretly love them. Just because they really are bam in your face. You know, the rest of the ziggurat is green, brown and blue, and they're all a little bit muted, so I just wanted one plant that just was bam in your face. And also, yes, a waterfall, because I imagine, well, actually to go back into like the second row of Archimedes screws to go up the complete ziggurat, as I said, those aren't visible, so I thought like, alright, if there is destruction, and I already said I wanted to have part of like the machinery behind raising water up to be invisible, then there's probably like pipes or some other way that the water gets transported inside the building. And then if you destroy the building, that inside becomes visible. So yeah, I'm just quickly attempting to make some pipes that look like they have been destroyed when the planter fell down and took a huge chunk of this side with it. So yeah. Although it's a little bit difficult because the water effects they want you to build either fountains or waterfalls, not that much in between as far as I can make them. So yeah, it was fun trying to make a little bit of like, let's just say, sewer explosion. Yeah. Also, don't worry. As I said before, my red pandas have a knack to escape. It's because when I changed when I went from the bugged save file into the new one, something with placing their habitats screwed up, so now they're teleporting through walls. I'm not joking, they are teleporting. So I did fix it later on, but you will see a lot of notifications of like, a dangerous animal has escaped, and then I'm just thinking, how dangerous can they be? I mean, most that they do is poop when I'm looking at them. Yeah, I don't know if I'm cursed or blessed with that, because as you could see in the beginning of today's video, I was just, you know, wowed by how adorable they are, and then they immediately started pooping. I don't know what kind of influence I have, but just every time I want to make like a real-time part with red pandas, they just start pooping. Or, well, when it comes to camels, they start escaping by some weird way. And red pandas just start pooping. So I'm curious what will happen if I make a real-time part with the okapis. Do they then suddenly just start mating all the time? Well, actually funny to talk about that, because both of the red pandas suddenly also became pregnant at the same time. So yeah, we are at year 6. Nothing has happened, and then they just suddenly started pooping, and now they are suddenly also both pregnant. So I don't know what weird kind of influence I have. But again, with the planter, so again making one of the planters not completely fallen down, but just a piece broke off and crashed into the stairs. And again, this is the place where I built then a little bit heavier of plants, just because there is the availability of a little bit more soil. Because otherwise, well, it would take a long time for, let's say, a tree to basically grow here, because its roots would need to basically destroy the surroundings to grow fully, and probably wouldn't be able to grow fully because there's just so much resistance against the roots, considering that this is probably a completely solid stone building. But yeah, I just wanted a little bit of destruction to the ziggurat without destroying the structure of it, and with it still looking somewhat pristine from the palace, because I just like that view a little bit more than having just a complete ruin. Because also this is a little bit of based on research, but the ziggurats mostly stood in like the center of town, from what I found out. So I didn't want a ruin in the center of Kayan Al-Bashar. So yeah, that's basically what went into it. And also I wanted to have, it is going to be a lemur habitat. So there needs to be pieces that are climbable. I mean, they can go up the ziggurat by way of the stairs, but there wasn't really much to climb besides the trees. So I just imagine that the people of Kayan Al-Bashar finally had enough and started to try and preserve the ziggurat. Maybe not completely rebuild, but at least preserve it so that, after time, of course, with enough pressure building up, because, well, there's one of the water systems already broken down. There's probably a little bit of pressure on the building that the building would just slide away from under itself, or just, destroy itself further by time and such. So the people of Kayan Al-Bashar are finally stepping up to the plate and finally are trying to restore or at least stabilize the ziggurat, which gives way for the lemurs to take over. And well, that's pretty much going to be it for today. I'm not going to build all of the destruction on camera, as I said before, just because it's kind of repetitive, because it's just like remove the first layer of bricks, fill it in, make it look destroyed, and that's pretty much it. So if you guys want to see more, I'm probably going to go into the actual habitat building in the next video. But right now, this is where the video ends. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, I hope to see you back in the next one. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And I'm going to end it with a few shots just to show what we have achieved in today's video. Have an amazing day, guys, and bye bye.